All right, well, just 2 weeks on the job, new VA Secretary Dr. David Shulkin is tasked with cleaning up one of the country's biggest bureaucracies.
Hundreds of you emailed us with your questions for Pete to ask the Secretary, and you asked a bunch of them.
That's right. Hundreds of questions is an understatement, because this is just a small fraction of what we got. Just asking one time.
Sure.
Hey, vets, military families, Americans, what are your questions for this new VA Secretary so that we can ask him?
It just shows how much people care.
No, they poured in. People
Wow.
care. Our viewership here really cares. So we took a good number of them and gave them to the VA Secretary. Here it is. So the first one is from Thomas Morosky, and he said this. He said, I'm a U.S. Marine who served from 1967 to 1970 with 25 months, you know, 3 tours in Vietnam. I live within 40 miles of a VA clinic, so if I need anything other than blood or urine tests, I need to travel 140 miles to the VA hospital in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My question is, are you planning on fixing the VA so vets like me can go to our local civilian doctors and hospitals?
Yeah. Well, first of all, glad to hear from Thomas. And Thomas, thank you for your service. We do need to do better. And asking people to drive 140 miles to get simple tests isn't a system that's designed to meet the veterans' needs. So yes, Thomas, we are looking at different ways to expand the types of options and choice to be able to use care in the community. We think that's really important. And we're looking at different ways of delivering care, particularly for younger people who say, I may not want to go different places. I may want to get the care right where I am on my phone, on my computer.
Scott asked this question. He said, I served my country as a U.S. Navy radio man, a submariner on the USS Alaska. My question is simple. Why is it that if you make more than $30,000 a year or a certain threshold of income, you're not eligible for medical benefits?
There is a category that are veterans that were not service-connected and make more money than a minimum threshold that we do serve. But we use our resources as wisely as we can to try to serve in that order. And somebody like Scott may be falling outside of that. And so what we're trying to do is design an efficient system so we're able to spread the resources that we have to as many veterans as possible.
Interesting. Okay. Shannon asked this question. He said, I'm an oncology nurse who saw my sister die from poor care from the VA. My brother was found to have liver cancer 2 years ago, and at first he told the VA told him to plan his funeral. They haven't even done a biopsy. He threatened to go to the news or his congressman, which miraculously led him to getting surgery and being free of liver cancer. I think the larger question here is, why do veterans feel like they have to fight the VA, fight the bureaucracy to get served, as opposed to feel like they're being served by it?
Well, I obviously want a system that's responsive to the veterans, that the veteran feels like they are getting everything that they do deserve.
But too often it takes a congressman or a news story or someone really fighting back as opposed to feeling like they're a customer and being served.
Yeah. We want a system where everybody feels like they're being served. It's a very, very big system. And in those cases that people aren't feeling like they're being served, I'm very, very glad that they have advocates. They're often family members, friends, caregivers.
Sure, man. And we hear that in this stack of paper. So many of these people are the advocates themselves, not necessarily the veterans who are just as passionate as the veteran are about their care. A final question here from a viewer is, more than 40% of veterans live and work in small and rural areas. Travel to VA clinics is often so far from family and work that these vets forego needed care. Why not allow access to VA health care records and credential local providers to provide care to veterans near where they live and work?
Well, let's go back to the crisis that happened in April 2014, the wait time crisis. And Congress stepped up with a plan called the Choice Program. They designed it, a very well-intentioned plan, by saying that you needed to live either 40 miles away from a VA or have a wait time of 30 days. And what I've said to Congress, and I've been very clear, is if I were designing a system, it wouldn't be based upon 40 miles or 30 days. So our job is now to come back and to say, we think we can design the system better that's going to meet the needs of veterans in a better way. And that's what we're committed to doing, is to changing the system to be more responsive to veterans.
A lot of people have a lot of questions.
They do.
And a lot of family members. I love that point. It's not just our military, but the people that love them so much.
And I handed them the stack and I said, these aren't mine anymore. These are yours. You know, these are yours problems to solve. And so we're all rooting for him and hoping he does, but they're going to have to be aggressive and fight.
Well done, Pete.
He's an agent of change at the top.
Yeah.
But what about under him, the people who actually do the work?
Hundreds of people that will report to him that some of which he can bring in, some of which are permanent employees. That's the first layer of the swamp you have to deal with to get to the to the place where you're really managing the process and changing the way that vets interact, whether they have real choice in the private sector, and people are really held accountable at the end of the day.
And a lot of those people are the same.
Of course, and a lot of those people are protected by government unions, and that's why it's so difficult to change things sometimes.
Well, our prayers are with them.
Yeah,
Indeed.
we're hoping
Very
for the
much so.
best.
Good luck,
We
sir.
need to get it right.
Yep.